Shalom, shalom.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
I'll say okay, thank God. Long time no see. Gosh, hasn't
Yeah,
it?
it's been a crazy fall, that's for sure.
Well, as it says in the Bible somewhere, I if I fall, I will get up.
I feel like that sometimes, especially right now.
So what's on your mind?
Well, I've been honestly, I've been focused pretty heavily on what's going on in your part of the world, and just deeply concerned and just prayerful, and so I wanted to make sure I checked in with you to see how you were doing and how things were in your part of Israel.
So in my part of Israel, as you can see behind me, it's really quiet, and I can see it out my window also. And even though we a lot of people in my community fear that we're living in the kind of fool's paradise that the people by the Gazan border did, because just about a kilometer away from here is the outskirts of a relatively um, negative, mean, terrorist city of the Palestinian Authority. But now, when I say terrorist city, I don't mean that everybody in there is a terrorist. I don't really know too much about it. It drives me nuts because I've been trying to find more out about it ever since I moved here. But it's a place called Bani Naim. There's about 20,000 residents, and a few terrorists have come out of Bani Naim to execute a terror attack. One of them, I remember, was the murder of a young girl by the name of Ariel, the same last name as me, but a different family, lived in Kiryat Arba. She was, I don't know, 10th grade or something like that, maybe younger. And the night before, she was a dancer. She was at a dance recital, the year end dance recital of all these girls. She loved it. She went to sleep. She slept in her bed in her bedroom, and a terrorist climbed in through her window and stabbed her to death at about 10 o'clock in the morning.
Mm.
So that was a tremendously horrific thing. Since it happened not far from me, about 10-minute drive from me in Kiryat Arba, people don't know this area so much. They hear Kiryat Arba, they think me, and so a few people actually called me up and said, "Gidon, is everything okay?" Because it's my last name, but it was okay with me, but not with them. And that terrorist, a young man, I don't think he was 18. He came from Bani Naim over here. So I've been trying for 10 years. I've been living here 11 years. I've been trying to find somebody that I could talk to in Bani Naim who isn't a terrorist. I'm
Mm.
still not successful. People say, "Yeah, I'll find you somebody," but they never do. They never deliver.
Wow.
So
Wow.
anyway, some of the other people in my community are less optimistic than me, and they say we have to get our civil guard up to better than it is. I think our civil guard is okay. We have a fence around the community, most of the community, and we have a an emergency response team of people who are here all day, walking around with an automatic rifle all day, and if necessary, they put on a vest and all sorts. But they just launched a fundraising campaign to raise like about $250,000 to build a an escape route, because our community only has one road in. You can't get out of here any other way. So that's going to cost about $100,000. Give me a second. Let me find it if you don't mind. Rakarega. And what's her name? Oops. Give me a second. Let me share my screen with you so you can see what I'm talking about. So this is Mali Heber. That's my community. So adopt a soldier. I don't remember what that means for $1,500. Maybe it means to get them a bulletproof vest and a special kind of helmet or something like that. These guard posts, we want to build guard posts. I mean, for $500 to build a guard post, we're not talking about to build a World Trade Center. Something $500, something. This is that new security road that I talked to you about. We want to add, I don't know how many perimeter cameras. We have a vineyard over here that is outside of the gate. So that's very important to us because we don't want there to be a thought process that, we are in the gate and the terrorists are on the gate. No, we want to have a little bit more living room, as they say. So we need more security cameras over there, and not sure what they mean by the infrastructure. I mean, I guess this should have been over there. Anyhow, we need another bulletproof security vehicle, and this is also very important. Emergency generators. The electricity goes out in our community, I would say, on the average of once a week, and Palestinians in our area, they steal the electricity, they steal the water from time to time. And it seems that to cut off the electricity, it's just a well-placed hatchet or something like that. And I see that they also want to buy another ambulance. When I remember there was an ambulance here, I think they might have taken it away from us because we live in a community that is part of a 20 community regional council. So not every community, not every town had an ambulance. So I guess somebody decided, hey, you guys have had your ambulance long enough. Now we're giving it to somebody else. And we said, no, we want an ambulance. So hopefully we're going to be able to raise money to buy an ambulance. So that's what they're doing. I mean, obviously, everything here is important. I mean, remind me where you live.
So I'm just south of Denver, Colorado.
Denver, Colorado. So I don't think you have to worry too much about security roads and perimeter and bulletproof security vehicles. But
no, that's not a concern of ours. That's for sure.
So that's what we're doing.
One of the things that was very interesting to me the first time I visited Israel, and then I was reminded of it last time I was there last year, is how you have A, B, and C communities, territories that are littered all throughout Israel. So, I think most Americans or Westerners have the mindset that there's Israel, and then there's this little area called the Gaza Strip where the Palestinians are. And then you have this highly controversial area called the West Bank, which a vast majority of people have no idea what it is and even what it's about. But not only is Israel surrounded by its enemies, right? You have Lebanon, and you have Syria, and you have Jordan, and you have Egypt, and you have all these places that are all around you, right?
Excuse me, Jordan and Egypt, they're our friends now.
Yeah. And, and what I try to explain people, obviously most people know that Israel's the size of New Jersey, and that helps us geographically to understand size. But I said, it would be like where I sit in where I live right now, we're probably, an hour away, maybe a little bit more than that, an hour away from Wyoming. It's just to our north. And I try to explain to people all the time who live here, I said, it would be like Wyoming is a state that absolutely not only hates you, but wants to see you completely wiped off the planet. And, it's just to get it in people's mind. But my question for you is, could you explain as best you could kind of the A, B, and C territories and how they're situated and located throughout the country? That would be helpful for people that don't understand.
They're not situated all around the country, and I will certainly share my screen and bring up a map of this. 1 second. Yeah, so this is where I live, that Malay Hever. There I am. Let me get rid of this and scroll down here. Thankfully, the internet is reacting pretty nicely. I spoke too soon. Okay, so this is Israel. Let me draw here 1 second. Yeah. So this is Tel Aviv. From Tel Aviv, we go up to Haifa, and then we go up to Rosh Hanikra. This is the border with Lebanon. This is the Galilee Panhandle, and this is the Golan Heights over here. And then this is the Jordan Valley. This, of course, is the Dead Sea. And this is the Arava road down to Eilat. Here's Eilat. This is the Negev border with the Sinai Desert. Today that is, whatchamacallit, Egypt. Here is the Gaza Strip. And here is the rest of the Mediterranean border. That's a pretty good way of looking at Israel. And this over here is the West Bank. This is Samaria up on the top. Here's Jerusalem in the middle. And here is Judea in the bottom. And I didn't do a good job of drawing it, but this is like a backwards B. So you mentioned an hour. Really, I don't, except for maybe the Negev, there's no place in Israel north of Beersheba, including Beersheba, that isn't less than an hour away from a terrorist entity. Because all these places are this close to the West Bank. Tel Aviv, look how close Tel Aviv is to the West Bank. It's crazy. So you were asking, so that is the West Bank. You got that?
Yep.
You got that. As far as areas A, B, and C, that only exists in the West Bank. Well, okay. Judea and Samaria. First of all, in the pre-Israel, in the pre-1967 borders of Israel, we have about 8.5 million people, citizens, full rights citizens, democracy, of which about 18% are Arab Muslims. Now, in America, I looked this up recently, you don't have more than 2% of American citizens are Muslims. So anybody who says, you guys have to treat your minorities better, well, let's see you guys treat your, let's see, here you talk about 18% of Americans are voting for anti-American, if the parallel of anti-Zionist is anti-American, which really is, of course, it's really not strong enough, because anti-American sounds like a guy who, the Scrooge, who says bah humbug to July 4th, oh, let's ban fireworks, that's anti-American, let's make sure no more Frankfurters, whatever. But in Israel, anti-Zionist means we want to erase Israel as a Zionist country, when Zionist means the state of the Jews. In other words, we want to turn it into a non-Jewish country. When I say non-Jewish, I mean nothing special Jewish over here, and let Jews find some other country if they need a special country of their own.
Yeah. It's not as though they're saying we want to be the majority party. They're saying we want a one-state solution that doesn't include the Jews at all, period.
Well, they don't say that, but that's what would ultimately happen. Anyway, but that's what's going on now, 18% inside of pre-67. In the West Bank, Judea and Samaria, there's about, I don't remember how many, 2 million Palestinians, and there's about I think by now, close to 800,000 Israeli Jews in the 200 or so communities, villages, and cities that we live in. So
let me hear that again. You said there's more Palestinians are we talking about the West Bank?
We're talking about the West Bank.
Okay, so there's more Palestinians in the West Bank than there are Jews.
In the West Bank.
Okay. That's what I thought. Here. That's what I thought you said. Okay.
Let me find here. So this is a map that I'm going to open for you.
Yeah, that's helpful.
We'll open this link, I guess. Tab. And images, settlement map. Here, West Bank map settlements. Let's see if we got another, if that's helpful. So a little bit harder to find one. Here, this is probably a good one, maybe. Of course, this is the anti-settlement organization. So this, I don't know what Amera is. 18, okay. So where's the map over here, guys? Here. So the very gray, you got gray, dark blue, and orange, right?
Okay.
So the gray is Area A, which stands for all Arab, if you will. Doesn't really stand for that. It stands for A. But that means where the Palestinians have complete civilian control and complete security control.
Okay.
The black, the blue, the dark blue over here, that's Area B, where it sort of stands for both, where the Arabs, where the Palestinians have complete civilian control, which means that they're in charge of collecting the garbage and stuff like that. But Israel has complete security control.
Okay.
And the orange is Area C, where that is where Israel has complete security control and complete civilian control. What does that mean? This big area over here, sorry about this, this big area over here, there's barely anybody there at all. It's the Judean desert.
Yep.
But this area over here, as you can see, the blue and black area is most of the area. Right?
Uh-huh.
We'd say, and the orange stuff is pretty much the Jewish communities with roads going between them. If we try to make this a little bit bigger, here, let me show you where I live over here. Let me try to figure that out. Yeah. I think that I live right over here. You see that? You see where my hand is over here?
Uh-huh.
So as you can see, this is like a corridor over here. So I've got Arabs to the north of me and Arabs to the south of me. Now, I got a little bit more space than the 3 millimeters that I can see on this map, obviously. So I do see Area A just north of me over here. Again, if we go back to my map over here, the real map.
Okay. I didn't realize you were in the West Bank. Okay.
I am. So here is where I live. You see this dot that says Holy Cacao, and that's where my house is. This is my community.
Uh-huh.
It's pretty small. You drive up this road. This is 1 kilometer. Drive another kilometer. You're smack inside of Bani Naim, which is a
Arab controlled territory.
It's Area A, where Israel, where the Israeli army doesn't really go in too often. Okay, I thought I would be able to see the whatchamacallit, the borders of Bani Naim, but I think it's this gray stuff is pretty much Bani Naim. This over here.
Yeah, I see that.
That's pretty much it. And this is my community down here. Something like that. So again, we don't go into, pardon me?
Go ahead, finish your thought.
We don't go into Bani Naim. Today there's a big red sign. Here, you ever heard of a sign like this?
Yeah, I've seen that.
So this sign, this is the one that's right next to my this one is just like the one that's right next to my community. You wouldn't believe it. This road leads to Area A under the Palestinian Authority. The entrance for Israeli citizens is forbidden. Dangerous to your lives. Why is it dangerous to your lives? Because of lynching. That's why it's illegal in Israeli law, because we don't want to have to go into Area A and pull you out or pull your body out. It's crazy.
And this is what I want people to understand, that they, this isn't some land and territory that's located several hours or several hundred miles away from you guys. You guys are literally right up against, it's like the next neighborhood. It's like a subdivision next to me is a territory that says I'm forbidden to enter, even to the point where death could be the end result. That's what's people don't understand.
Yep.
Is this is what you guys live with every single day of your life?
We see this we pass by the sign every day of our lives, but when they first put these signs up, we said, hey, don't put those signs up. I don't want people to think that it's dangerous where we live, because we want more people to come move here. But the fact is that it is. And I'm trying, like I said, I would love to be able to establish some sort of a chat, some sort of a relationship, some sort of communication with anybody in Bani Naim. But the people who say, yeah, I can find you somebody, they haven't found me. And the people in my community, they tell me, Gidon, what kind of you? Some kind of a what's his name? John Lennon? Imagine. There's no imagining over here. We know exactly what's going on over there.
Yeah. How long have you been back in Israel?
I got back to Israel. Today's the 11th, the 7th today. A week, about 2 weeks.
No, I'm sorry. When did you move back from the States to Israel?
Thank you for saying move back, because I was born in the United States. I moved back to Israel because I am a Jew returning to my indigenous homeland. But the first time I traveled to Israel is when I moved here. That was 45 years ago, when I was 15 years old.
Okay. So in that 45 years, was there ever a span, this is probably a silly question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Was there ever a time or ever a span, where there was any kind of relations with any of those Palestinian controlled territories around you, even if it was like worker exchange programs or anything? Was there ever a time of quote unquote peace between the territories?
Okay, before, first of all, I think you said two things. You said like work exchange or something like that.
Yeah, so, just some sort of positive relationship between the two communities and not so contentious. Was there ever a time?
Okay, so today there are, not today because we're in the middle of a war, but except for a war, there are, I don't know, about 50, 100,000 Palestinians who have work permits to work in what's called Israel proper or in the Jewish communities of Judea and Samaria. That's number one. Number two, before the great Oslo peace deal, whatever you called it, which was in, I think, 95 or 93 or something like that, then it was pretty peaceful around here. I would go deep into Hebron. I would go into Bethlehem. I would go through Ramallah. But since then, since we brought Arafat back here, who the first thing he did, he started killing anybody who was against him in Judea and Samaria, in the West Bank. And then he started killing the Jews also. And then we gave them guns. It's hard to believe what kind of things that people did here. And unfortunately, it's even harder to believe there are still people who defend it. I was just listening to a blog, a podcast or something, a Zoom call of the person who was like Ariel Sharon's right-hand man when he gave up the Gaza Strip and the 20 or so Jewish communities in it. And he was saying, yeah, it was a great idea, and it's still a great idea, and anybody who's against it is stupid. I can't understand how somebody can say such a thing.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you another follow-up question. Are there examples of the Palestinian territory issuing work visas for Israelis that lived near those areas? Is there such a thing?
First of all, as far as I understand it, remember that 18% of Arab citizens of Israel, they come and go pretty much as they please. Even though that sign that I said means you're not allowed to come in here if you're Israeli, it means you're not allowed to come in here if you're Jewish. It's just
Okay.
very uncomfortable to say that. Again, I'm thinking of commerce. Like, let's say there's a sachlab factory, a sweets factory in Jenin or something like that. So theoretically, you could have a Jew going in there, or for example, there's a tahina factory in a sort of Arab neighborhood near where my son lives, but it's a nice Arabs community. So they go in there and they buy tahina from them, and they sell. My son sells it. He doesn't have a big business. He buys 2 cases and he sells 18 pieces or something like that. But that a Jew would go in to work where the average wage is like a quarter of an Israeli wage.
Okay.
It's a backorder company over there, country over there. They're all dying, pardon the expression, to come and work by us.
Yeah.
Because we also pay their Social Security, all sorts of stuff. Yet not they. Too many of them kill us, and not enough of them demonstrate against that kind of violence. And I was this morning. I was on a WhatsApp call with people in my community. They said we don't want to have any Arabs in Ma'aleh Hever anymore. We build houses over here. People build houses. They do work. Arab labor is much cheaper, like half the price or even a quarter of the price. So people want to use them. So when they come in, you need a guard, an armed guard with the Arab workers. But some of these Arab workers have been working in our community for over a decade. So everybody knows them by name. But they said, no, we don't want those anymore. Not everybody. Some people who've always wanted to get rid of all these Arabs. But they said, we don't even want Israeli Arabs. If an Israeli Arab who has an Israeli ID card votes in the Israeli government, votes in the Israeli elections, if he comes and he's, let's say, delivering a package or something, or a refrigerator, leave the refrigerator outside the gate of the community. We don't have any Arabs in here. That doesn't ring well with my liberal tendencies of the kind that I grew up with in the United States. But that's the way people are feeling now. That's what happened. That's what the story is being told. That happened in the Gaza Strip. The Gazans got work permits to work in the communities just around the Gaza Strip. Most of those communities around the Gaza Strip, they were far left kibbutzim. They were pro-peace, anti-settlement. They treated these Arab workers as members of their family. But those Arab workers, some of them, were busy collecting intelligence. And then on October 7th, they told the Hamas, this is the room where the 7-year-old kid is sleeping. This is the room where the 4-year-old kid is sleeping. And this is the room where the grandmother sleeps. That's how they managed to knock on the doors. No, I know there's six. There are four kids in this family. Where's the fourth one? I got to kill them too.
So, based on your perspective, I'm not talking about the general consensus maybe of people in your community, but from your perspective, what's the answer to this conflict?
You're asking at a very difficult time because we're in the middle of a war. If you would ask me, and I think you did ask me like 3 or 4 weeks or months ago, I have a friend, and really every time I remember him, I see I gotta say hello to him. Give me a second. Let me say hello to my friend Ashraf. 1 second. Hello. There we go. 1 second. Sorry. Hello. Okay, I just said hello to my friend Ashraf. Ashraf is a tribe leader in Hebron. Hebron has about 200,000 residents just in the municipal area, but there's a lot of urban sprawl. And about 40,000 of them are his family or his tribe. Ashraf Jabri is his name. And he's a pro-Israel
Is that an elected
Arab.
position?
Pardon me?
Is that an elected position?
I don't think so.
Or appointed, or yeah.
I think it's just my father was the head and I'm the head now. We're talking about heads of tribes like 2,000 years ago.
So he's an Arab Israeli.
No, he's a Palestinian.
Okay.
But he is anti-Palestinian authorities, anti-Arafat.
So how is he received? Obviously, he's received pretty well in your community.
No, he's not received well in my community. He's received well by me.
Okay, interesting.
Because my community, most of the people, I'm waiting for a good opportunity to bring him in here and let them talk to him. Now is not a good time.
Yeah.
But and I hope I haven't missed the boat. If they vote here to say no, Arabs are not allowed into our community, no way, no how. I don't think it's going to happen, but that's what some people want to do. Anyway, he hates the Palestinian Authority, and I hope, and he's well connected. He is buddy with the former American ambassador to Israel, David Friedman. He met with Trump, the president, and he went to Bahrain for a peace. The old Abrahamic Accords. He's a guy who's doing the real thing. As they say. Could he possibly be the new leader of the West Bank, of the Palestinians there? It would be great, I think. But there's too much interests going around over here, including Israeli money and Israeli businessmen. They're happy grafting the Palestinian Authority, and the Palestinian Authority is happy grafting them, and everybody's happy. But meanwhile, people are getting killed. And again, people, both Israelis and Palestinians.
So, one of the prevailing narratives in the United States right now, as it relates to this conflict, that relates to this war, is that there seems to be a strong belief that many innocent people in Palestine, in Gaza right now, are being impacted by this conflict, and that Israel is carrying out acts of genocide right now and trying to wipe this
down. The fact that they are impacted, of course they are. The fact that Israel is carrying out genocide is ridiculous.
Yeah. No, I agree with all that. I'm trying to get to hear your thoughts on some things as it relates to what's the general perception within your community. Let's have you speak for your community, at least, as it relates to the delineation between innocent Palestinian and Hamas terrorist. Is there a delineation in the mind of most Jews?
You want most Jews, or you want my community?
let's go with your community first.
I live in a community of 100 families. Is that what we're talking about?
You bet.
I think that some people say just strafe bomb the whole place, just totally delete it. Let's do to them what they're saying we're doing to them. Some people are actually saying that. I, of course, totally disagree with that. Some people, some of my more thoughtful political friends, who they say we got to relocate these Palestinians, all of them. We can't trust a single one of them, and there's only 2 million of them, and Egypt should take a bunch of them, and maybe Jordan should take a bunch of them, and Bahrain should take a bunch of them, and I don't know where else. And maybe the United States could take. What if the United States would take 500,000 Palestinians? Would it make a dent in the United States? Put 10,000 in each state, 50,000 in each state. No, 10,000 in each state, and each one will come with $50,000 a person. We'll set you up. Everything will be okay.
By the way, we're already doing that with our open borders. But go ahead.
So that's another solution, to totally empty the Gaza Strip from potential terrorists. We've seen, really, the word terrorist is much too light for what we just saw. A terrorist is a guy who, like just this morning or yesterday morning, some terrorist, 16-year-old guy, found a knife, stabbed a woman and killed her. That's a terrorist that we're used to. But that 1,000 of these people, including kids, come and rape and pillage, and that's a whole new thing. So it's ridiculous to have any chance of that happening again. So that's why we got to get rid of the Hamas. What's going to happen instead? If any Palestinians stay in the Gaza Strip without the Israeli army having a free hand in the Gaza Strip, I don't think that can happen. I think already Netanyahu already hinted at that Israel army is going to stay in the Gaza Strip for the foreseeable future. And frankly, if you're already having the army in there, we should be able to get our Jewish communities back there, the ones that were unilaterally destroyed by Israel against the majority of the population. And so
under Sharon?
Under Sharon, yeah. So if we would put the status quo ante to 20 years ago, before Hamas and before the destruction of the Gush Katif communities, then things would be, and again, in those Gush Katif communities, they were very happy to engage with their Arab neighbors. For the most part, they were little by little more and more terrorists, but no more terrorists. We want the Israeli army everywhere and very, very strict rules against terror.
How do you feel that the international community would feel about that strategy?
Well, I think that the international community can you can suggest that the international community can be represented by the United Nations. Makes sense. So how does the United Nations vote? About 170 against 10 against Israel. So now, and they've been doing that for decades, and every crazy thing that they suggest. So yeah. Now, when you say the international community, do you think America, the leader of the free world, the majority of the world is like America? Forget it. America stands alone. America and Israel stand alone. And that's only because the slight majority in each country is pro-Israel. Now, again, it's a little hard to say because frequently there's 100% or 90% of the Congress votes for Israel. But little by little, the rabid left is seems to be gaining power in the United States.
Well, I'll tell you this, and I think you know this to be true when we're both old enough gentlemen to understand how governments work. I would like to sit here and tell you that, our senators and representatives represent the feelings and thoughts of their people that they're there to represent. But quite honestly, that is not the case. And this is what I'm seeing in the United States right now, is there is a minority of people that are highly outspoken against the actions of Israel right now and want to see a ceasefire, all the things that you're seeing on the news right now. There's a minority in our country, many of which, matter of fact, if you watch these demonstrations, many of which are foreign exchange students that are here from those countries that want to see the Jews wiped off the planet, that are getting free education in our country right now. Don't get me on my soapbox about that. But I think it's a minority of people that are making a whole lot of noise. And so what does the media cover? The media covers those events. And so then there's a general perception that the United States people are against what's going on in Israel. And I think that's far from the truth. I think a vast majority of Americans are pro-Israel, a vast majority of Americans. Now, the problem is, we know how this stuff works. The problem is when those our politicians get in office, a lot of priorities begin to shift. And now they're beginning to think more about the party and about their own future, political future. And so they're getting pressure because, quite honestly, a vast majority of the Arab community in the United States votes Democratic.
But that's barely 2% of the United States.
I understand that, but it's still a percentage of people that are voting. It's a significant number in the vote. I mean, because they're fairly active politically. And so they're voting Democratic. And so now you're seeing this wave is of Islamophobia. And now these politicians are beginning to say, we need to protect the interests of our Arab constituents, however small. It doesn't matter. That's the political pressure that they're feeling right now. And so now many in the left are starting to be much more considerate, I think, for what's going on as it relates to the Arab position in the United States, as it relates to what's going on in Israel. And if you're going to see a sway in the United States support of Israel, that's going to be the impetus, is not only the pressure internally from this small minority of people, but also you're going to start to see political pressure from other international countries putting pressure on the United States to back away their support from and stop supporting the, whatever you want to call it, whatever the narrative, whatever the marketing is, if you want to call it an occupation, if you want to call it a genocide, whatever it is people are wanting to call it, more and more, that's my concern and that's my worry, quite honestly, about our country, is that they're going to collapse to political pressure coming from these minority groups and not truly represent what I believe is the vast majority of this country, and that is the pro-Israel stance.
I think, I'm sorry to say that I think that you are too forgiving. You're justifying it with political interests. I'm sorry to say that I think it is flat out anti-Semitism. I think that anti-Semitism is rearing its ugly head. I publish a series of, I published a series of books called The List. I might have told you about this. We published a book that listed about 2,000 years of anti-Semitism, primarily amongst Christians, by Christians, and that was up until, I think, 2019. And then in 2020, we published The List 2020, just the things that happened in 2020. Another 1,000 things, as much in the book. Here's the list 2020, and here's the list. Whoops. Which is the fatter one? So that's what was going on. And this year, I'm afraid we're going to have to publish 2 volumes just for 2023. So
what's contained in that book?
All of the not all, but the researched incidents reported anti-Semitism in 2020, in the year 2020. Here, let me show you if you can see that. There are 2. Here's another 3.
Gotcha.
Over 1,000 incidents a year. And I've got here 2021 and 2022 also. And now in January, Bezrat Hashem, we're going to publish 2024. In other words, it ain't slowing down, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that people are feeling, you know what? I don't like my office manager, or I don't like the way that this coffee tastes. I'm just going to take it out on the Jew. This is what happened in Germany, the most enlightened country in history until that point. And it seems to be happening here, being egged on by social media and by mainstream media.
Yeah.
So
I agree completely with you. And let me just speak to that, because when I talk about political pressure, I think that's how it manifests itself. I think that's how the opinion manifests itself. But the core issue, the root issue, is exactly what you're talking about. The core of it is anti-Semitism, and even the root of that is it's demonic. I mean, if we want to get to the core of the issue, it's a demonic spirit that's been in existence since the beginning of time, and Satan has always wanted to see God's people destroyed and wiped off the planet. So,
right?
No, I'm with you. I agree with you 100%.
So I think that Israel has been doing its best to deal with that satanic, anti-Semitic stream in so many countries around the world. And really, again, I like to say we're doing it with our both hands tied behind our back, but we are creating relationships with people in different places in the world. And I hope that we will be able to create a better world before the world gets worse. But that's not just us. That's all the good people of the world have to stand with us. You might have seen, I don't know how much you follow Facebook, but I saw this cute thing. You probably saw in other places. You have to click a button when you try to get through to a website to prove your humanity. What are those things called? I forget. Anyway, so to prove your humanity, click the box. Next to the box, it says, I support Israel. If you support Israel, you're proving your humanity. If you don't support Israel, that means you're supporting these horrific uber Nazis that are saying, yeah, let's kill people, cut them up, burn them. It's just.
Well, I think there's 2 things we're dealing with here. We're dealing with arrogance or ignorance. And here's the thing: Satan can work in both of those camps equally as effective. And I think there's an arrogance or an anti-Semitism that's outright, that is embraced, that is deep hatred that comes from a satanic root. And I think we're seeing that obviously manifest itself. That's pretty obvious. The other one is ignorance. And I think, quite honestly, a vast majority, and this is hard for me to say, but a vast majority of the church, the Christian church, is simply just ignorant to these issues, to anti-Semitism, and they're ignorant also, maybe at a deeper level, they're ignorant to the connection between, believe it or not, Israel and their faith, and the Jews and their Christian faith. And that's a big part of what I think the Lord's leading me in my ministry right now, is to help followers of Jesus understand our relationship with our brothers and sisters like yourself in Israel, and how important that is, and how important we begin to educate the church on these things. And sadly, we're just not there. And so,
listen, I got to get moving over here, but I want to pick up just on that last thing that you said. If your ministry is working in that space, then bring me there and let me talk to these people. Let them see that a Jew doesn't have horns, if you know what I mean.
Amen, brother. Well, I appreciate your time as always. Blessings to you, and we'll figure out how to make that happen. Okay.
Hey, man, we'll be in touch. Right now, I'm going to my afternoon and evening prayers, and the sun is going down, I think, a little earlier over the next few weeks. So maybe if possible, we'll talk by WhatsApp to see how we can, or you're not on, are you on WhatsApp? We'll talk by email to see how we can maybe make our meetings a little earlier or something. We'll figure something out. We're in touch. We're
Okay,
friends.
buddy. Take care, my man.